from geology journals to medical journals.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you want to get published, or do you need to get published as a...
You need to get published.
Both, yeah.
You need to get published, and you need these people, these publishers. Well, is there like a free for you publishing company that's like, we just want an open access platform and you need it and we want to make it available and we'll be free.
Someone's got to get paid.
Yeah. I mean, there are the open access journals that like have their platforms of like free and free. But then like a lot of it too goes down to like impact factor of the publications and all that stuff too.
Oh, okay. Like in order for like the publication to like market and get your information out there, it needs money to do that.
Yeah, you got to have a system that makes sure, at least for the high journals, that it's very rigorous, that you can't just publish whatever you want. You know, everything has to be super tested. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. There's some standard.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
I will say, as someone who works for NOAA, anything that's published under federally funded programs is actually required to be published as open access. So you should be able to find copies of that either hosted through government servers or through open access journals, or even journals that are not fully open access. You can often pay a fee to make sure that your individual publication is open access.
Can I ask again about the need to be published? Who is that? Is that like to be a doctor, I need to be publishing, or to be a researcher, like that's the nature of my job?
Yeah, as far as I always say, if you don't publish, you never did the science.
Okay.
There's a lot of people who've done a lot of great measurements and work and never published it, and that's gone. It's never going to be anything. No one's ever going to see it.
Oh,
so
I
if
see.
you don't publish, you're invisible, and there's no point in doing the work, essentially.
It also kind of depends on what you're doing. So say if you are in genetics, if you're working for industry, you're not necessarily going to be publishing because you're working towards patents on certain technologies. But for academic or a lot of work that's done federally, you are publishing.
Yeah, essentially, the federal government mostly pays me to my research to make sure that I make it available and get it done, and that everyone can see it. And that's part of the grant.
Independent of your work being put into papers, does your work, if you're federally funded, also go into like databases that are accessible?
Yes, that's actually a part of both. Obviously, NOAA has it rigorous, but also NSF, the National Science Foundation, who funds me. Can we have a zoom on that fish?
Yep.
I have to have data management plans, and that within 2 years of doing the research, everything has to be discoverable in certain databases, so make sure everyone can access and assess my data.
Okay. So it gives you 2 years to write your paper with your data?
Theoretically, it usually takes more. But
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, for instance, all the eDNA samples that we've been collected, any of them that we're able to successfully amplify, those sequences will be in the NCBI short read archive after we're done analyzing them. So they'll be publicly available for other researchers to download.
Oh.
Yeah, and all my ages will be in an EarthRef database, as well as obviously publications, and then my geochemistry data will be in places like GeoRock and Geochem, archives. So it's all findable.
And does Nautilus, I think Nautilus gives its data to R2R, is that right?
Yes. All seagoing expeditions basically put their data on there. And then there's also some NOAA archives where Nautilus sends their data to, so you can get some of the raw bathymetry data available online.
National Center for Environmental Information, or NCEI.
Yeah.
And all the samples we collect get archived in museum collections so that they can be requested by other researchers from those museums.
That's right. There's a geology, there's more than one geology one, right? Like one is Rhode Island, and that's where we send most of ours, right? But there's also one in a geology repository in Hawaii?
There's 4 nationally Science Foundation repositories for marine rocks. Everything from the Nautilus program goes to the University of Rhode Island.
Gotcha.
University of Hawaii has a repository. It's not very active. I was actually trying to take it over. Oregon State is a major repository that's funded. Lamont, which is over by Columbia University in New York. They have a repository. There's Scripps, which is technically is not federally funded, it's independent, but they have a large repository as well. And all the biology samples from this goes to the Smithsonian, I believe.
Nope, it's the
Nope.
Museum for Comparative Zoology.
Sorry, I was thinking
In
not
Harvard?
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking Okeanos samples.
Yeah, there are some specific cases where they will go to other museums. For instance, the West Coast sanctuaries have an existing agreement with the California Academy of Sciences, so even Nautilus collections, although they're subdivided, so a piece goes to MCZ, so it's archived there, and then the other piece was archived in the California Academy. But largely they all go to MCZ.
Cool.
Have you guys ever requested specimen or rocks from the repositories before?
I have, and I actually will be requesting another batch right after I get off the ship.
Oh, what are you looking for?
All the samples that were collected, coral samples that were collected in 2020. We're gonna
from when we were here?
No, this was for the West Coast work. Since I work with the West Coast Deep Sea Coral Initiative, a lot of the specimens that were collected there are much deeper than we've been able to previously survey. And so there's additional species that are currently missing from our genetic voucher collection.
Oh.
So I'll be requesting those specimens. I won't get the whole specimen. I just get a tiny piece, just enough to do genetic work. And then to close out my museum loan, what I do is once I've sequenced them and gotten the sequence all cleaned up, I upload it to the NCBI GenBank database, and I provide those numbers to the museum, and they add them to their records.
Oh, that's great. You get something out of it, they get something out of it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've requested a variety of samples from URI. This expedition, I'm gonna been sawing off slabs, and I'm gonna take some just directly home with me. In 2019, when we were in Kingman, I just, after the expedition, put in a request. So once they got the samples and they put it into their system, they sent me slabs. And then other expeditions, I've requested plenty of times. And I was, for a little while, the curator at the Oregon State University Museum. And NOAA was paying me to describe and archive everything from their ocean exploration program.
Oh, wow. Did you end up seeing anything there that you had never, like anything of note that you were like, oh, I never had access to this certain kind of thing. It's from a certain place.
Yeah, actually all the samples I was excited about. I couldn't sample it at the time or work on them because there was kind of a conflict of interest. But I made them publicly available. I put lots of detailed descriptions, and a few people worked on a few of the rocks. And then as soon as I got my job at Nevada, I went ahead and requested like half the samples.
Oh, yeah.
And now I got a big grant.
Insider knowledge, yeah.
I did my best to make it, get the word out that they're there. But
yeah.
A lot of people don't want to work on these. It takes a lot of effort and specialized skill set to work on these heavily altered rocks, and that's kind of what I specialize in. And very few people do that kind of stuff. So. Yeah, there's not much life going on the flatter portions of the seamount.
Oh, so we're starting in the, you can see on the map there, we're starting down on the steeper bits.
Excellent.
Yeah, it'll just take us another minute to get there.
Ah, see? There's a cliff. Kinda. Maybe.
Can you get a zoom on that little bump? Whatever this is. It's probably just a holdfast.
Sure. Go ahead and push on in there, please.
Yep, just a little sponge holdfast. Never mind.
Pull in.
Thank you.
Give me a chance to practice. Thanks. Getting rusty up here this morning. There's not a lot to...
Got to keep you on your toes.
Yeah. I keep thinking it's morning. It's morning for me, but it is definitely 1:30 in the afternoon.
Tim, can we put Norbit back on channel 3?
Sure. Chris, I'm going to put Norbit up on channel
Sure.
3.
Let me make sure something reasonable is going.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How is Norbit this morning?
You know, just ping in the bottom, like as usual. Everything seems to be working fine.
What does Norbit stand for?
That's just that's the name of the company.
Ah. That's a fun, silly name.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where it comes from, and if you Google it, you definitely don't get sonars.
Could you walk us through the Norbit sonar? Like, we've talked about it a lot, but could you mind going through it again?
Sure. Okay, so the Norbit is a multi-beam echo sounder or a multi-beam sonar. So basically, instead of sending a single beam down and just getting a depth directly below you, you get a array of ranges for up to 180 degrees to either side of the vehicle. From directly down to 90 degrees to either side. And once we get those returns, we can fuse that data with some navigation according to the vehicle, and we can start to put that together into a map. So that's basically what we're trying to do. That's basically what we're trying to do with the Norbit. And on Sat 3, I guess you can see. Yep. You can see the real-time map that's created so far, which is a little bit messy, but real-time maps usually are, and we haven't really been doing an actual survey. So this is just sort of the data that we collect incidentally.
So Chris, it just occurred to me that a side scan sonar looks out to either side at 180 degrees down towards the bottom, but it's got that blind spot in the middle.
Yeah. So so this is a good question. This is so multi-beam and side scan are not the same thing. When you look at side scan data, it looks three-dimensional, but it's not. So side scan is what's called a imaging sonar. Hang on, let me put a ship move in here real quick. Okay, bridge nav 30 meters 180. So anyhow, yeah, side scan is what's called an imaging sonar. So it basically has two more or less conventional echo sounders that are just pointed out to the side. So if you've like used like a fish finder on a boat, and you look at the water column data, right? In that, imagine taking that and just shooting it at very shallow and along the bottom. So you can get that, and you can get that data with range, right? And see the differing intensities with range as the beam goes across the bottom. And it's a wide beam, so you can pick up different things along the way. And it looks sort of 3D because you see shadows and things like that. So your brain can like pick out like 3D structure from that. Multi-beam works differently where it gets actual ranges, but it's not as robust for backscatter. So you don't get that brightness imaging quality nearly as much as you do with multi-beam, or as you do with side scan. So a good way to think about it is, a side scan is a lot like a camera, right? whereas a multi-beam is a lot like a radar or a LiDAR.
Oh, that is a good way to think
right?
about it. Okay.
So like a camera, if you look at an image, you can get some sense of the shape and the structure, but it's all pretty vague. Like you don't know exactly how big anything is or anything like that, or how far away it is. But what you do get is you get very good intensity and color and that sort of thing out of an image. Whereas with a LiDAR, you get very precise ranges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you get a very precise like point cloud in the end, but you get much poorer backscatter. I mean, you do get backscatter from LiDAR, and same with multibeam. So
the backscatter return is also what allows you to tell how hard the bottom is, right? So if you're looking at a rock versus some sediment?
It's coupled.
Okay.
So you have, it tells you how hard the bottom is. All things being equal, it tells you how hard the bottom is, but it also is tells you how orthogonal the beam is to the... So if the bottom is completely uniform, you're only going to see how orthogonal the beam is. So the more orthogonal it is to the beam, the brighter, the more oblique it is, the dimmer. Yeah. Whereas if you have like a flat bottom, you're going to see differences in terms of like sand versus mud versus rock, that sort of thing, if the bottom is just totally flat and just made of different materials. But the real world is more complicated than all of that, so everything is very coupled, and yeah. Fortunately, like I said, it produces an image, which our brains are very good at handling. Actually, I'm going to steal this for just a second. I can kind of show you what... there we go. I can kind of show you what... Oh, no, the backscatter isn't doing great because there's another sonar interfering with it. Because Norbit has like a side scan mode. So, but it's kind of just a mess right now from all the interference from the other sonar. So never mind, I guess. Oh, and to answer, I guess, your original question, the reason that you have that gap in the middle, the nadir, is because you're beaming out at an oblique angle with two fixed sonars, right? So there's that gap in the middle that you don't really see anything because it's just not covered. Yeah. It's just by the nature that it works. You could beam directly down on it, but then you really don't get that, like...
You don't get the shadows.
You don't get the shadows, yeah.
Right.
And
cool.
Yeah. And a lot of side scans do have a down beam, but it's more or less just like a conventional echo sounder in the middle.
Sorry, 1 sec, guys. Kevin, are we happy with this contour, or do you guys want to go even lower on the cliff? Kevin, you're FFCL.
Yes, I think we should keep going lower. See if we can find it.
If we keep going...
I mean,
if we keep going south, it looks like the contours are going to swing in a bit, too.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. We just head south and see if we hit it.
Yeah, because, I mean, it looks like eventually we'll intersect it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Bridge nav, 30 meters, 180.
You might do a DVO reset there too, please.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the sonar system that Hercules had before?
There's a couple other sonar systems that Hercules still has. And they're all basically scanning sonars. So they are single beam sonars that rotate. So if you think of like the quintessential like radar screen, that's basically what they give you, right? And those are good for obstacle avoidance because they have a very wide beam in the vertical direction. Do you know how wide the vertical beam is on those? Anybody?
No idea.
Okay. Nobody knows.
I mean, we have we have like 100-meter swath on Argus.
No. But I mean, like they open. They're very skinny to the left and right, and they're very wide up and down, which is why you can like, yeah, because I mean, so it's basically working like a side scan sonar that's like rotating from a central point. Okay. So that wide vertical beam allows you to like see the seafloor and like see objects that are at increasing range, right? And you get the shadows and stuff just like you would on a side scan, but it rotates around. So those are very good for obstacle avoidance, but they're not very good for localizing things because you can't tell, because of that wide vertical beam, you can tell that there's something there in that beam, but you can't tell how high it is, basically. So if you want to, so they're not good for doing things like mapping. Whereas the Norbit has a very, its like vertical beam is like 0.9 degrees or something. So it's super skinny. So it's just like a, yeah. There's one more type of sonar that we don't have, which is a forward-looking sonar, which is, it sort of serves the same purpose as the scanning sonars, but it operates much more like a multi-beam. It is a multi-beam, but it's a multi-beam with a wide vertical aperture. So it has like a 30-degree wide vertical. So it basically works just like the Norbit, but with a super wide opening. So you get this like scanning sonar or side scan sonar type image, but it doesn't have to scan. So you get it instantly, and you can see instant feedback as the vehicles are moving around and stuff. And it gives you these really nice, like, super clear images. But again, that's like good for imaging and good for collision or obstacle avoidance, but it's not great for like bathymetric mapping.
So how does which one of those does Herc use to know that it's, I don't know, 3 meters off the bottom? Does it use a sonar for that?
So okay, there's Herc has just an altimeter for that.
Okay.
Which is just like the very most basic,
okay,
like depth sounder on your sailboat kind of thing.
Got it.
Just pressure rated, obviously. And Argus has a sub-bottom?
Argus does, Atalanta doesn't.
Yeah, Atalanta doesn't, Argus does,
right.
Yeah, right.
Atalanta just has a altimeter.
Yeah, which is basically just a low-frequency single beam sonar that can penetrate sediment and mud and things a little bit, so you can kind of see layers in that stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for for different frequencies to interfere.
Yeah, so let's see. We can, for some reason, the Norbit like stops showing water column, which is a little annoying. There we go. So if you look at the water column data here, let me turn the brightness up.
Yeah, we're looking at channel.
You see
3
these
right
these pings coming out, like these like half arcs coming out in the screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's interference from something. I thought maybe it was the DVL, but it was still there when the DVL is off.
Could it be interference from that fossil we're holding?
No, I actually checked for that. It's close enough to the sonar that the sonar just kind of sees through it.
Just irradiate. Oh, no.
Actually, if we zoom in, we might be able to see it.
You know how the bubble cam has a guard?
Oh yeah,
and
there I see the fossil
in the image.
There it is.
Behind the guard. Oh, there it is. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is it the dark little band in between?
It's this. Yeah, it's that right there. So I have that range gated out so we don't get returns off of it. But yeah, sound doesn't work quite like light. It kind of goes around and through things and whatever, so it doesn't necessarily just block it. I'm sure it's not super helpful for seeing the bottom, but it doesn't seem to hurt it too much. But anyway, yeah, these rings are interference from some other sonar, and you get these, they just kind of happen in random places because the sonars aren't timed together, so they just kind of ping over each other, and sometimes you hear back from the other one. Ideally, they would all be triggered, and each one sonar would send its ping, then the next would send its ping, then the next would send its. But we are not doing that just yet, so.
When you say other sonar, do you mean from another ship or?
No, the other sonars on Hercules.
Okay.
So I'm guessing these bands that we're seeing are probably from one of the scanning sonars. I'm not sure what frequency they are. Does anybody know?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so it's one of the other sonars on board Hercules. And maybe even from Argus too. We might be seeing interference from that. But the ones that there are these radial rings out are almost certainly coming from Hercules. The other like random blotches and stuff might be from Argus.
Maybe no, it was in the water column. Thought it was this big sponge on your port side, but I just think
Bridge nav 30180.
something else.
There's a big fish hanging out there.
Yeah, I thought it was on the bottom, at first, but I think, yeah, it's in the water column.
We have re-arrived at the wall.
Yeah, it's looking good.
You don't sound excited, Kylie.
Wall crawl, take 2.
You say wall core?
Wall crawl.
Oh, Raj, I thought you meant we're going to take a core with the vehicle. We're like, no.
We're going to use the bone. We're going to carve out some...
as long as we... Oh, dear.
There is a Japanese ROV that did some preliminary work with coring, where they're holding basically a large frame that has a drill core in the center of it, and they can drop it on the flat surface and drill into it.
Wow.
With an ROV. I don't know how successful it is. They want it to pretty soft rock, but it is something that I would love. But
is this the same group that had the ROV that had the rock saw mounted?
I don't think so, but they're just trying stuff out there, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, that would be, to have a rock saw on the vehicle would be cool.
Yeah.
Say, oh, that's too big. Not anymore.
Yep, exactly. You can just cut the rock in half and see if you want to take it.
Yeah.
Except that's going to extend the die time by like 12 hours of just me. Being super selective.
As long as we're not taking a Herc sample of the wall.
Yeah.
That's all we care about.
There goes the DVL. Was nice while it lasted.
Thank you.
There's a stalked crinoid. Looking straight down. So the cone's coming up the wall.
So, forgive me if this is a silly question, but okay, these are animals, yes?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
So do they sleep?
Great question.
I don't think they have a nervous system function to sleep the way we would think about sleep.
You want to set to USBL, please?
Do you think their cells like store energy and then just rest when they're not actively doing a thing?
You know, I don't actually know enough about neurobiology of these guys to know that. I know they have a nervous system that consists of a ring of, I think it's just a few cells that go around their oral disc.
Okay.
But yeah, they don't have, that makes them closer to chordates than say like shrimp. But yeah, they don't have a brain the way we think about having a brain and like the need for sleep.
Gotcha.
They probably do have some kind of senescent cycle, but
Senescence means getting old?
yes. So I guess, I mean, they probably have some sort of rest cycle, but it's probably not, I wouldn't think about it the way we think about sleep for higher vertebrate animals.
I wonder what signals them.
Yeah, let's start coming up a bit.
Thank you.
I guess what age or what in their biology, I guess, allows them to know when to detach from the seafloor? Or is it just kind of...
Well, that particular one we were looking at does not detach from the seafloor. It's permanently anchored. That's a stalked crinoid. The others are probably just responding to current and chemo signals in the water column.
I think it's peer pressure.
All the other crinoids are swimming.
Yeah.
Might as well join them.
The water's just fine.
Yeah, each of their little tube feet is armed with a lot of different chemosensors that allow them to basically taste their environment. So they
Cool.
can respond to environmental cues.
It's a very cool, dramatic cliff feature.
Meredith, how did you get to where you are? You sound so like well-rounded, and like you have a really broad understanding and a really detailed one at the same time. Like, what was your first, like, I want to do this, and then how did you sort of like refine it?
So I've always been interested in marine science since I was like a tiny child. So I knew that's what I wanted to do in college. And I have a bit of a broader background than a lot of folks who do what I do. So I have a degree in oceanography, but as part of that degree, I also did a lot of invertebrate zoology and marine botany.
Oh.
And then I moved into functional genetics. So I've dabbled in a lot of things, and I'm even when I'm not working on this stuff, I'm endlessly fascinated by it. So I read about it, I watch a lot of documentaries, I seek out educational materials on it, just because I find it endlessly fascinating.
That sounds like a lot of work. Is there any supplements I can take to be smart like you?
Sunshine?
Yeah.
Oh, can't handle that.
Burn too easily, huh?
Yeah.
It sounds like your experience and interests have all informed one another.
Yeah, and I kind of pursue different paths. Like when I first got started, if you'd asked me, I would have told you that I was going to be a tide pool ecologist.
Yeah.
Looking at the ecology of tide pools, but then I had the opportunity to start working in a genetics lab on phytoplankton research while I was an undergraduate, and that got me totally interested in genetics. And so I did that as I had an undergraduate research project focused on that, but at the same time I took a lot of other courses. So like one of the things I did was went and lived in Friday Harbor for a quarter, taking this really intense marine zoology, marine botany course at the University of Washington's Friday Harbor Lab, where we were doing 6 days a week of going into the field and collecting invertebrates and studying their biology in great detail and learning to draw them. We each had to come up with a personal herbarium of all the different seaweed species around Friday Harbor. So it was a very informative course. And then, you know, switched over and did functional genomics in the Gulf of Mexico for a while, which is a totally different look at genetic perspectives. And then from there, we worked on salmon for a while. So I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of different marine animals as well.
Yeah.
You can see the steepness of this cliff edge. It's so defined. Very cool.
My 30-second elevator speech is, I'm interested in how marine organisms use their genes and genomes to adapt to their dynamic environment at a variety of scales.
Oh, cool. That's a good pitch.
All right, I'll come up a bit.
You could write a book, Meredith. Or you should write a book. You have a diary I could read? Just a rough drafting, really.
Maybe once I actually get a couple of manuscripts that are currently sitting on my desk off my desk.
There you go, okay.
Can we tell how deep this cliff
here
fall goes down to?
Maybe.
I think Norbit is the answer. Let me back a
Norbit.
bit. There you go, Chris. Wants to tell you.
I'm seeing like a floor at 120 meters. Maybe, well, did you rotate? You
Yeah.
must have, okay. Yeah, it looks like maybe it might even go deeper than that, depending on how you're...
There's a fish in the
Oh
bottom.
yeah, no, it goes even deeper. Oh yeah, it goes, yep.
It goes. Raj.
It goes and it goes.
It goes out of range,
Raj.
which is, let me see, I don't know if I can see.
So if you were to trundle one of these rocks off the side, it would just keep going for a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of lose sight at the bottom at, oh, well, hang on. I'm kind of losing sight at the bottom at 200 meters? It looks like I can maybe vaguely make out a floor there, so.
Roger.
Ooh, the bubble cam is super steep. Sheer, very sheer.
Yep, that's about a 90-degree angle.
Yeah. Yep.
Not a lot of critters on this side of the face, though. Surprising.
It'll hold here.
And just as you say, that one appears.
Yep.
Really big hemicorallium, it looks like.
Sorry, guys, I don't have a scope for it yet. I'll just wait. A really interesting feature, though.
Yeah.
I mean, just...
Very thick.
All right, I'm going to start, the contours are curving a little, so I'm going to turn to follow them.
Raj.
Bridge nav, 30210.
210, Raj.
210.
You can hold at 180.
I hold my breath every time I change my heading. I'm like, don't jump around.
Nice big hemicorallium.
Go ahead and do a zoom in there, please. That's good. Full wide, please. Coming up a bit.
Coming up above that hemicorallium is a really good, with our lights on, a really good example of how fast you lose red light. When we're close to it, it's bright pink. And the minute we get a couple meters away, it fades into the background and becomes the same color as the rock behind us, behind it.
It's a really good observation. I hadn't noticed that before. Also probably a fairly good representation of why we use sound instead of light radiation to see to the bottom of the ocean.
Yep, water is very, very good at absorbing light over relatively short distances.
So after we kind of curve around here on this contour for a while, are we going to cut up to waypoint 9, or are we going to stay along these contours?
I think we stay along this contour for a little while.
Roger.
I'm enjoying it.
So are we looking at the sort of distinct thin lava flows here, or?
I'm not sure. It looks like at some point you went from a massive lava flows to thin layers, which might be a lava to carbonate transition. But it's not clear. Everything's kind of crusted over. There's a halothurian right in the middle.
Where?
Right by the lasers to the left.
Oh, it's really blended in.
Yeah, it's camouflaged.
Yeah, eagle eyes back there.
Yeah. Just a barely imperceivable color difference. Sorry for interrupting.
No, there's nothing to interrupt. But, yeah. Yeah, I can't really tell what kind of rocks and transitions there are. Everything is kind of just smoothed over, very steep. So this is probably a collapsed, well, clearly a collapsed section.
So in the rocks that you've been bringing up, how thick have the crusts been?
Typically around 10 centimeters, so
Whoa.
pretty thick, about the width of the lasers.
So the whole thing's crust?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they have a nice little core. They vary. If you get a nice little like angular tower spiral, it can have just a tiny thin coating of manganese. But some of the rounder pillow kind of looking things we grab sometimes are mostly crust.
Is it fair to say the more crust it has, the older it is?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you can actually use the crust to try to get a minimum age on the seamount if you assume, a deposition rate.
Mm-hmm.
But in this area, it varies a lot, deposition by depth, by region on the seamount, local oxygen concentration, stuff like that. So it's not a reliable metric.
Mm-hmm.
But usually when I see these really thick crusts, I assume we're probably in the 100 million year age range, as opposed to the younger 70 million year range. That's kind of
Okay.
a rough metric, but you don't know until you date the rocks.
Could we take a Niskin here just to get some background water and see if we get lucky and detect anything?
Sure.
Just hovering kind of where we are in the water column would be just fine.
Bender and sensor off. Craft power is on. Porch light.
Oh.
You got it.
You want to come full wide here on Herc, please? Thank you.
Waiting on comms.
Reg.
Craft valve coming on.
Reg. Let me look up a little bit so you can see where the bone's at.
Okay, so the 1, 2, 3, I want orange.
Orange.
Orange, you glad I didn't pull the wrong one. Sorry. I thought that was funny. Whatever.
We're laughing.
We're all in solidarity here.
Fired.
Okay.
What sample number is this?
Sample 157. And which bottle was that?
Number 4.
Roger, thanks.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Okay.
Bridge nav, 30 meters, 200.
All right, Kylie, if you want to come around to 200 or so.
100?
200.
Oh, thank God. I was like, oh, girl, I'm not sure I can make it. Yeah, okay, I can do. Yeah, I mean, I was here. We got him.
Looks like there was a sponge of some sort just peeking up to the top left.
Looks like one of the vase sponges.
The cliff off to the left looks cool. Go ahead and push on in there, please. Kyle, you want to give me a little bit of scope there?
I like the little crinoid arms sticking up from behind it.
Yep.
Yeah. Boa feathers in the background. It's a very angular plate that it's on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Very pointy block.
Yeah, that might just be a thick piece of crust. It slid down.
Pull wide, please.
Little anemone to the left. And there's a umbaloula.
Oh, yep, I see it.
Very nice. Good eyes. This view in Atalanta is pretty neat.
Yeah, you can see how dramatic this cliff feature is.
Yeah.
Got a bit of an overhang right here.
Yeah.
There's some coral coming up on the top.
That's an anemone, I think.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a giant anemone.
Huge.
Go ahead and push on another bit, please.
Usually don't see them facing down.
I don't think this one has much of a choice.
Yeah.
Pull wide, please.
Very cool, thank you.
Yep.
And a little chrysogorgid coral right there on the lip.
Did you guys want to look at how this is structured, this plate here coming out?
Sure. You mean on top or from the bottom?
On the top here. I'm going to go ahead and push down in there, please, center screen.
Yeah.
There clearly used to be a bunch of sponges right on the edge. They're no longer.
Looks just like, yeah, thick remnant crust that's kind of held on as the rest broke off.
Huh.
So this area, would it be limestone?
I don't know, probably. But you can't tell from here. But yeah, it's neat little overhang that did not fall with the rest of the stuff below it. Here we got a little arete on the left.
Bridge nav 30195.
What's an arete?
Part where the rock
Shrimp.
juts out. Little shrimpy doing its thing. And a big coral, hemicorallium maybe?
Oh,
a couple
yeah.
of them.
2 big hemicoralliums. So we might pick up something in that sample after all.
Yeah,
It's a cool shot.
yeah.
So it is curious how there's a bunch of sediment down there, down below.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Guessing it's slightly flatter down there. But yeah, it's surprising how much sediment has accumulated.
Wonder if there's a local eddy underneath this little bit of an overhang that's just helping it build up.
Yeah, even got current ripple marks in those.
You mind if I get a partial zoom on Atalanta?
yeah, go ahead.
Good, Tim. That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very long, stalked, probably primnoid.
Can see the corals in bubble cam now.
Okay, come wide on Atalanta. Thank you.
But wide.
I really want to look up, but I cannot. Hey Tim, you want to open the iris on Atalanta a bit there, please?
Open an iris on Atalanta. How's that? More?
I think that's okay, yeah. Thank you.
We have all of our lights on though, right?
Yeah,
Weird.
you're really far away.
But usually it's not that dark.
Like, camera's out.
Yeah. But even still, surprised.
I'm surprised my tether's not being pulled.
Was that a shot at the nav, or?
No, it's not a shot at anybody. I'm just surprised.
Kevin, how old do we think this geo is?
I'm going to guess around 105 million years is the working hypothesis. It is quite thick with the ferromanganese crust. There's been 2 dives on it previously, and both pulled up, though, kind of thick crusts and altered rock, so nothing usable. We got a lot more basalts on this dive, though, so hopefully, fingers crossed, something I can date. But yeah, based on its location, the thickness of the crust, I'm going to assume around 105 million years. But we won't know until we analyze it. You can get some big surprises sometimes.
And how do you go about dating the rocks?
I use a method called argon-argon geochronology, or 40-argon, 39-argon geochronology. It's a derivative of potassium-40, argon-40 method, where potassium-40, it's radioactive, and it decays over time to 40 argon. And one of the advantages when lava flows erupt, they kind of lose most of their argon, but they retain their potassium. And over time, once it locks and seals and crystallizes, it will start growing back in that argon. So we can measure how much initial parent there is and how much daughter and determine an age. And the reason I use a slightly different method is because argon and potassium can't be measured in the same instrument, because one's a noble gas and one's a lithophile element. I irradiate my samples, and I turn some of that potassium into a non-natural form of argon called 39 argon. And I can use that as a proxy for the potassium and calculate an age just by measuring the noble gases and nothing else. But yeah, that's the short description of the method. And it's one of the few ways to date basaltic lithologies. There's other lithologies you can date using different methods, but usually they need specific mineral phases you don't find in these basalts.
Is it just a fish? Not seeing anything. Might just be a fish, Kylie.
And there isn't any more seismic activity in this area, correct?
Yeah, this area is completely aseismic, meaning we don't see any pings on any kind of earthquakes or movements. It's right in the center of a large plate, so it's very stable where it is. There's no volcanism in the area that's active, and so it's a aseismic region. It's been long dormant.
So would you be able to tell when exactly that activity stopped, or you can only tell when it started?
I can infer when it stopped based on the ages, but nothing precise. If you get all the youngest ages of all these seamounts, you can kind of say it wouldn't have been anything in this region past. Right now, probably 65 million is the youngest we find in this region. So another umbaloula, however you pronounce it. Umbaloula.
Umbaloula.
Umbaloula. Thank you. So right now I'm meaning 65 makes about sense, a million years ago, for how long seismic activity would have stopped in this area. And as an inner plate volcano, the seismic activity is still minor. You're not having big earthquakes or anything similar to Hawaii. You can have some smaller earthquakes here and there, but nothing major. The large earthquakes you get at transform boundaries and, of course, subduction zone boundaries, where you have two plates grinding against each other and getting stuck, and then releasing lots of energy. These seamounts would have formed still in the center of a plate, away from the plate boundary.
And this slope feature, it failed because you were saying how...
I'll hold off here for a minute.
When the geo, over time, it's the gas that's inside of it is allowing it to subside into the crust?
Yeah, not necessarily gas, but it's just the heat source when it goes away. So this geo formed where the lithosphere basically went over an anomalously hot part of the mantle. And that caused melting and produced this volcano. When the lithosphere then moves away from that anomalous source, it starts to cool pretty rapidly. And when it cools, it sinks into the earth. And during that initial sinking, that's when things can become unstable and you get these large collapse features. You can also have something called post-erosional volcanism, where after the wave, cuts it down to a flat geo and it sinks under the water, sometimes you can have reactivation of little bits of volcanism on top. And that can kind of mess up some of your interpretations of limestone features.
Is it possible to zoom on that guy?
Oh, good eye.
Sorry. Oh, the fish?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sitting there being all camouflaged.
Yeah. Where is it?
Right below the
Just
lasers.
below the lasers.
Go ahead and push on in there, please.
Wow.
Bridge nav, 30 meters.
That's a cool looking one.
I think
210.
that's a cusk eel just hanging there upside down.
And right in a crevice, too. Go ahead and come wide, please. Flying with the fossil is a bit fun.
You kind of forget about it until you zoom out a little bit, and then, oh yeah, we're holding a club.
Is it messing with the way the craft moves? Being held up there in the breeze?
No, it's all good. It's just I'm staying a bit further away from the wall, so I don't break it in half.
This is quite a cliff.
Yep.
It's really sheer and dramatic. Meredith, what's the pitch on this one?
Like the rock pitch?
Yeah.
Oh, this would be, since it's so overhanging, 10 or 11. 5'10", 5'11". And chossy.
What is chossy?
A lot of loose rock.
Ah, Raj.
So like really dangerous.
Yeah, so this would be like 5'11"
R for arrivederci.
Yeah. R usually means if you take a fall on this, you're likely to get hurt.
It's really gonna hurt.
I'm centering up here, Chris.
There's an anemone right on the edge of that little nose.
Oh, yeah.
That looks like a thick little basalt float cutting through the sediment.
This is all loose rock up on top, the kind of...
It's hard to tell how loose it is. Some of it might actually be pretty glued down.
Yeah, the sediment always makes it look looser than it is.
Although let's just say if I was climbing here, I wouldn't necessarily weight any of those with full body weight.
If this was on the surface, the ferromanganese becomes so brittle when you're on the surface that half of these holdfasts would just break when you grab them. That would make some real dangerous climbing.
That looks like a seam right there.
Yeah, nice corner.
Nice little cave.
There's like an encrusting anemone here, or an encrusting coral, sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and push on in their center screen. That's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good eye.
That actually could be a stoloniferan octocoral.
What are those little guys?
I think that's a stoloniferan coral.
Oh,
so
cool.
they're corals that grow in these flat sheets over a rock surface.
A bit tighter.
Sure.
Oh, there's lots of them.
Oh, wow.
Like a little, I don't
Can
know,
I come wide, please?
a marching band.
Yep, there's a big
There's a
something.
big anemone up to the left. We'll come into view in just a second.
I really like this overhang.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That is so cool.
The rock's embedded in the...
Yeah, it's essentially a ferromanganese encrusted conglomerate, the layer, where actually ferromanganese can act as a pretty good cement, as we've seen. And you can start encrusting these little cobblestones together.
So it looks like there's like two stacks, right? And then there's, I'm not sure, I don't know the geology, but does it form in these distinctive layers like we're seeing here, or is that just wasting?
No, I think it is. It can form in distinctive layers, and then in this case, the layer below it's probably collapsed for some reason. This held on, so it's forming this overhang.
Very cool.
Yeah. Little sponge next to the anemone.
And a little tiny chrysogorgon just sitting on the top of the lip.
Bridge nav, 30 meters, 210.
I'll hold off here again.
Raj.
almost looks like there were rocks sort of embedded in it, and they've like kind of fallen out, leaving like pockets.
Yeah, definitely. So some of the larger rocks might have been not as heavily cemented in, just kind of broke off.
The sand's pretty neat too. Looks like
Yeah.
tiger stripes.
Yeah.
Now, since this was an island, it is possible that all came from the island. That it's because they kind of rounded a lot of those cobbles, so it's likely this was an area where a stream or a river came off the island and then deposited all these cobbles.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We found that in Kingman. One of the samples we returned was like all these rounded cobblestones and stuff cemented together, and we think it's similar came from when it was subaerial.
Yeah, I'm sort of imagining what that would have looked like when it was on the surface.
Yeah, if you've ever, scuba dived around Hawaii and you see like little deposits of rocks and cobble sometimes, eventually those can cement over and they'll look like this 70 million years later.
Wow.
So dramatic seam right there.
Yep. Little fracture propagating. It's good for wedging your hands in as you climb up it.
Losing her.
Roger.
And it would take one look at that bubble cam and I would not climb this feature.
The trick is not to look down.
Yeah, especially when down is just pitch black.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to pass that on to the other arc. No, it goes the other way.
All right. Chris, the next move, do you want to cut Atalanta a little bit inwards to the slope so that she gets a little closer and I have more? It seems like otherwise just dropping off there.
I've been actually cutting in slightly, but it's just we haven't quite seen it yet, so
Right.
I don't know that I want to do.
Looks like there might be a coral to the bottom left. Barely see the stalk.
Yep, that's another hemicorallium down there. I suspect that actually probably just below where that is, you'll probably have a little more corals, but with the current weather questions, not worth
Bridge nav,
dropping that
20
far
meters,
down.
215.
There's another one up ahead to the left.
What species of coral is this one?
These are, this white one here is probably either a bamboo or a primnoid. We've been seeing mainly single stalk primnoids here. And then the lower ones are all hemicorallium.
And you can tell the differences by the way the polyps are facing?
If it's a primnoid, which it does look like it is, then yeah, they'll point down, and whether or not they retract is also a diagnostic character. To tell between a primnoid and a bamboo coral, we'd be looking for little nodes between nodes and internodes. It's kind of black and white striping that makes it look like a stalk of bamboo.
That one was so densely covered in polyps you can't see.
Yeah, they did look like they were in rings of 3, which would make it a primnoid. Although Asako says it's a bamboo, so we'd probably have to touch it to really know. And with the fossil out in the Mongo arm, that's going to be tricky to do.
Oh, we can definitely touch with a minute.
If we can take a Niskin, we could do anything.
So we're just about due east of waypoint 9. Do we have any intentions of going there, or?
Nah, waypoint 9 sounds boring.
Okay.
We make our own waypoints now.
Sounds flat, yeah.
That is the last one, so
yeah.
At this point we can just keep following along this contour and see what we find.
Okay.
Roger. Waypoint 9 sounds boring. This is dive report.
We don't want any of that flat stuff, only cliffs.
Is anybody else seeing all kinds of crazy faces in the
yeah, less now, but definitely during the 12 to 4 a.m. watch. We're going through like pillar fields. I'm like, oh, there's a little totem face, and there's a hand. There's a... Try not to say it, but
yeah, right.
Definitely thinking it.
Cloud forms in the rocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of these rocks, and there are a lot of rounded ones, variable sizes. I think where we are is was a deposition field from when the iron was eroded down. Because you get a variety, and they're mostly volcanic, but they're deposited as if they're sedimentary rocks and cemented together with ferromanganese. It's just a hypothesis, but can we have a zoom on that, Cole?
Yep. Sure thing.
And it's not really a hypothesis, because I probably won't test it, but maybe if I see a good rock, I'll grab one.
I love your honesty.
That's one of the cornerstones of a hypothesis. It has to be testable. Desire is one of those testable aspects.
It's a question you're throwing out into the world that you may or may not try to answer.
Yeah. Just a suggestion.
Oh, that one's pretty.
Yeah, another hemicorallium. This one's just overall a little lighter in color.
You're right, they always do have this associate with them, don't they?
It's like right in the center, a big old brittle star every time.
And we can't for sure say that the brittle stars are feeding on this coral?
Why, please?
These brittle stars, I think, are just using them to get up into the water column, but because I'm not seeing any evidence of feeding. We did see that on the last dive, a gonosteriid star eating a hemicorallium, and the skeleton had been completely stripped white everywhere that the star had been.
Okay, so you know how we see the brittle star in the center? Is its mouth facing us, or is it facing into the coral?
The mouth is facing into the coral.
Roger. So we're seeing like the underneath side of it.
Yeah. We're seeing the top side of it. Their mouths are on the bottom side.
Oh, interesting. Roger.
Breach nav, 30 meters, 210.
Have you guys ever seen a brittle star mouth before?
Only at the dentist.
Yeah, an invertebrate, when I took an invertebrate zoology class. And actually, recently I was helping a colleague process what are called ARMS, which are autonomous reef monitoring systems. And we got a number of brittle stars on those.
Is it about the same size as the, I don't know, little puck on the top side of them?
It's smaller. It's little. It's kind of like the ones I have seen are kind of like what you would see for an urchin mouth. They're kind of just like a pore on the bottom side.
Oh, okay.
Do you think we can grab one of these rounded rocks? Or are we just too difficult a position?
No, Kylie can totally grab it.
Awesome.
Kylie,
I got all my faith in you.
All right.
I don't know if these are cemented in, but I would like a smaller rounded one if possible.
So don't pull out the keystone.
Lights. Okay. Got all the things set up, waiting on common before I turn the valve on.
Roger. I'm gonna fly it so that we don't have to park.
Sounds good.
How about the one kind of, let me get lasers on it. See this big old rock, the one next to it?
Yeah, I think that one's perfect.
Is that right?
Bottom right of it? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Either one of these two, I think.
Okay.
So I'll get you a little closer.
It's okay. I'm just re-indexing.
Roger.
I think you're gonna be better.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Moving target.
Yeah, you wanna come out.
Yeah.
How much space we have left in the bins?
I'm looking, hold on.
You said there was something floaty in Lambda, right?
Yeah, so in Lambda, it's pretty full. We have 3
Just
things
have
in
to
there.
re-index.
In
Oh, okay.
Omega, we just have a C pen.
I need to come back again.
So maybe you
You wanna
can
pull
fit
out
in
again?
E or F, this space.
Yep, E is pretty full. It also has 2 rocks in there, but in F, there's just a
Hold on
scoop.
1 sec.
Okay,
So
after this.
do we want actually a smaller rock then if we
Yeah.
we're gonna be double stacking on stuff?
Can you grab this little one up top?
Yeah. Let's get you there instead.
This little halothurian over there.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, you're clear. Negative, that is cemented in there.
That sure is.
Okay, I'm backing up again. How about the ones up to the top here with lasers on it now?
Those ones look very cemented, I think.
The one in the sediment though, do you think?
You can try it, but my guess is going to be cemented. But I'm thinking this one is a little looser, yeah.
Okay. Alright, I'm gonna touch down here.
Come on, big money, no whammy.
Big money, no whammy. Alright, you go ahead.
Okay.
Oh.
Ooh.
Nice break off.
All right.
Okay. Okay for a zoom, Jess?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Tim. That's good.
Very good.
All set?
I'm going to see if this has subaerial textures.
Okay, come wide.
I'm gonna hop up a bit and then get a
Sure.
good parking spot somewhere. I like that. Big money, no whammies.
Yep. Papa needs a new pair of shoes.
I know Mama needs a new pair of sneakers, so yeah.
What was the name of that TV show that was from?
I'm trying to remember. I got it from my wife, who says it all the time.
Yeah, I used to watch it. Press Your Luck is the name of it.
Ah.
Game Show Network. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take sample whenever. Or you're busy. I can.
There you go.
I don't need that, but just yeah, that one. Yeah. Box out.
And which one do we want to go for, guys? We're going to go for E and F, or?
Yeah, whichever one has the scoop, I think is probably the best bet.
That's F then.
Okay.
Foxtrot frog.
This is sample 158.
Don't
1,
count your
5,
samples before they're in the box.
If this one falls out, it is not getting back.
I have to count. I have to count them before we move. So.
Oh,
Nice.
Crushed it.
perfect. Thank you. Thank
No
you.
problem.
That hypothesis is back on the table.
Dive solo coming on.
Roger.
Okay.
Okay, valves off, powers off, and sense and bender are on.
Roger that.
I'll give you port rail.
Tango. Kyle, you want to elbow up again on this guy?
Sure.
Not sure if it's drooped down a bit.
Elbow up. Say when. Oh, that's below elbow up.
Roger.
Yeah.
So Kylie, when you say you're re-indexing, when you're using the arm and you're the manipulator and you're saying you're re-indexing, what does that mean?
Oh, it means I'm like halting the. It means I'm stopping the movement from like what I'm doing with my hands from translating down to the subsea manipulator, so that I can reposition physically like the topside controller without it doing anything subsea.
Gotcha.
Because I can get to the end of a certain like extension, and there's more range in the subsea controller, but not topside. So I just re-index, set myself up where I can maybe close that joint and then like reopen it to its full range once I like let it engage.
You can kind of see where this one got cracked right in the center.
Gotcha.
A couple
Yeah.
stalks that are broken off.
Go ahead and push on in there,
Yep.
please.
It's being eaten by this star,
Fierce
This is a
predator of the deep sea.
bamboo coral here. It's like something went right through the
Cool.
center of it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's another ROV.
That just gave me the chills.
You guys ready to jump?
Infinite darkness.
Yep. To the void.
Hold your breath.
Right off the edge.
You can kind of see where that crusty bit of the rock broke straight off that other rock.
Yeah.
Nice clean break.
Gonna push it on Atalanta there, please.
Zooming in on Atalanta.
I'd say like hold, pull back just a smidge.
Smidge back.
That's good, yeah, that's good. I'll just try to
200.
keep it as center as I can.
Bridge nav, 20200.
That overhangs so far out, it's practically a cave.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna come wide. I can't keep it.
Sure. Sort of a neat
Plus, yeah.
fissure in the middle of that rock.
Stuff.
Yeah. See, there's a lot of holdfasts here. There was once a popular rock. Now it looks like a little face smoking a cigar. Or a tiny cigar.
It does.
Now preserved in the still cam forever.
Good. I'll try to work it into some papers.
Here's a question in the chat. What is the most unexplainable item you ever saw on a dive?
I saw a chair sitting upright on the seafloor.
Did you?
Yeah.
Where was that?
I don't remember what that was anymore.
Like a beach chair or office chair?
It was like just like a four-legged chair.
Like a dinner chair?
Yeah, kind of like a dinner chair.
Ooh.
I can't remember if it was probably made out of plastic, but submarine debris.
Come across, so like the ship's bumpers, like you can see on the ones between where Atalanta will sit on the back of the deck here. We've come across one of those, but from some kind of really, really large cargo vessel. So the whole thing was like 8 feet high and 8 feet long, just sitting randomly on the bottom, covered in anemones.
I love how anemones will make home anywhere. They don't care.
It's a dramatic kind of volcanic looking feature right here.
I don't think they ever sent an ROV down on them, but in Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary, there were for a while a bunch of cars on the bottom that were discovered because the local macaw people were pulling them up in some of their fishing nets. They had come off of barges that were transporting them to Canada to be scrapped in a storm.
Oh.
So there might be a coral reef somewhere out there. Can we zoom on this tiny, cute little sea star? I think it's the one we collected.
Raj.
Did you guys see the collection when it came on deck?
Yeah.
Was it bigger or smaller than it looks now?
It was about the size of a quarter.
Oh, lovely.
So teeny tiny little star.
We gotta get some more to make Chanel earrings.
It's my dream.
That one looks like a little piece of ravioli.
Make a great earring.
Sorry, it's a little bouncy.
Thank
a
you.
little wide there, please.
Should do is get someone to do some photogrammetry of a specimen and then 3D print it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Bridge nav, 30 meters, 185. I'm going to try to pull us back to our contour. We got yanked off.
Raj.
Swimming shrimp.
Yeah, there's a columnar boulder basalt.
Oh, neat.
It's interesting.
So Kevin, what do you see in this one?
I see a fist.
I do too.
Or very old school, like volleyball, where it's like
Wilson.
Yeah.
I saw a recliner at first.
Oh yeah, good eye, good eye.
Yeah.
I saw a transformer in one of those phases where it's transforming,
Yeah.
you know, like the Transformers, like
Yeah.
Bumblebee, like a
Yes.
car slowly turning into...
Midway. It's just going to fold up at any second now. Wave at us.
We gotta get out of here, guys. Don't want to be there when that completes its transformation.
I feel like I've been at sea long enough where I'm so disconnected from reality where if that happened, I'd be like, yep, all right.
Cool. Put in the data log.
Yeah.
Assaulted by transformer.
Guess that happened.
Highlight level 5.
Then the kaiju come.
Seems like the swell settled out a little bit.
I don't know. Yeah, for a minute.
Shh, it'll hear you.
No, really.
Come back with a vengeance.
Because it's sort of sporadic.
Yeah.
Periodic, even.
Mm-hmm. It's a wave joke.
Yep. You got it.
I did.
All right.
I smelled you stepped in.
Candelabra coral coming into frame.
Oh yeah, the bubble cam, nice I-4 bamboo.
Go ahead and push on in there a bit, please. Thank you. Full line.
Probably in the genus Isidella.
So some bamboo corals have multiple branches and some have just one.
Yeah, so they can grow in a variety of really complicated forms. So you have the single stalk ones we've been seeing. You can get this candelabra form. You can get ones that look like really complicated bushes, but that occur only in one flat plane. And then you can get ones that look like a bush where everything comes out of a central stalk. I think we've actually seen a few of those on a couple of these dives. So yeah, they can be in a variety of shapes and branching patterns. And often the branching pattern is one of the diagnostic characters for distinguishing the types.
That's not exactly an intrusive dike right there, is it?
It's probably not. I was just thinking that, though. Great eye. It looks like just a really large lava tube, and that was just the left side of it.
Just a coincidentally sort of similar, some similar characteristics too.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And it's hard to tell if this is in place or this came down, but it is very large volcanic feature. Would probably be what's considered post-erosional volcanism, which is reactivation of volcanism after the seamount subsides, because it's on top of those kind of conglomerate layers we were just seeing.
Okay, would you mind getting me the engineering screen there, please?
Yeah.
It seems to be truncated in half. You can see the interior structure of it.
Bridge nav, 200. Correct.
Nice chrysogorgia.
Looks like a very large boulder right here.
Oh, yeah.
Is that covered over columnar jointing, or is it just too hard to tell?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but it might have some similar structures at least. And then it's kind of smoothed out with this ferromanganese.
What is that laying in the sediment underneath? Oh, it's just a rock with a shadow. Again, fooled.
They always get you. It looks like fuzzy little dark creatures.
I'm going to hang out here for a minute.
Looks like a few little things tried to grow on the top there at some point.
Yep.
Well, maybe they were big at the time. Just broke off. So Kevin, are we still in that erosional area that you were talking about, that subaerial?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of this debris probably came from the original island before it was below sea level. We're kind of on a platform where it must have collected.
I'm just going to take bubble for a second.
Roger.
Negative, Bridge.
Little white something on that sponge. Looks like a sea star.
I think it's, yeah, a little white star on that sponge.
That sponge is the sheriff of this town.
The sheriff. Go ahead and push on in there, please.
It looks a little less star-like.
Got any more zoom?
Might just be a white widow star.
Bridge nav 20185.
Oh no, it's a little white star.
Oh, okay, yeah, it is.
Yeah, so those look like hydroids that are kind of all over the back of that sponge, and it's probably eating the hydroids.
Oh.
Oh, full wide, please.
It's practicing for when it gets bigger and can be a big grown-up star and eat coral.
Aw.
Not much in the ocean eats sponges, but sea stars are one of the few things that will.
Huh.
There's a few mollusks that do as well. So some nudibranchs will eat some sponges, but sea stars will. There's a couple sea stars that are sponge specialists.
Do they eat the actual silica, or they just kind of tear the tissue off it?
I think they digest the living tissue from around the silica.
Wow. It's a very neat formation.
Yeah, definitely.
This one looks like it just straight broke off.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's really clean.
Yeah, you can see the surface where it's more exposed.
This is a great position, Chris.
Yep. I'll try to keep it here.
You get the best of both worlds.
Little stalk sponges.
Yeah.
They're cute.
Yeah, little deep sea Q-tips.
Go ahead and push on in there a bit, please.
Deep sea cute tips.
Uh-huh.
I like.
That's interesting. I don't know if I've seen one that has two.
It's like it got disturbed and decided to grow a little second
Yeah.
second ball just in case.
Porch?
Sure. Oh yeah, that looks way better.
Lasers off?
Yeah. Full wide, please.
Whoa, bubble cam.
Yeah, every time we move out over the edge, it's
Bridge
really
nav 30185.
like, yikes.
slow it down here a little bit. So this is only saying that we're 25 meters off the bottom, so. But Chris is going to correct us with Norbit.
You might be directly down, but it goes on forever.
Right.
Yep.
There's just a ledge for you to bounce off.
Yeah, straight down it might be, I believe, 20 meters.
Right.
Did any of you play that Club Penguin game where you had to like dive in the submarine to collect the amethyst and pearls at the bottom of the ocean?
Negative.
Okay, cool.
I did say that I did.
This reminds me so much of that game.
I did play a game where you had to use math to direct a dolphin around to collect items for you.
Oh, I played that game. It was like a sort of a head fake towards computer programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they get you.
I blame that game for why I'm so bad at Nintendo now.
Not enough math?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can modify Mario Kart where every turn you have to solve a differential equation.
I mean, it's pretty much how I play Mario Kart.
Give you an Atalanta right now.
Oh, yeah.
Moving along the edge of this giant cliff.
I'm just really loving the bubble cam view.
I'll put it up on channel 3. Yeah, just straight down.
Bridge nav 20200.
We're going to do a quick pilot swap.
Sounds good.
So, Kevin, I'm trying to imagine this this island back in the day.
Yeah.
70 million years ago, or however long ago it was. I think you said that's not quite determined yet, but so like what would we have seen here? I mean, it's near the equator, but
yeah.
Has it always been near the equator?
Yeah, it would have been more so. Probably south of the equator a little bit when it first erupted, but it still would be tropical, so it would be similar to what we find in like French Polynesia. There's kind of little volcanic islands with like Tahiti Nui or similar. So
with like really dramatic.
It's hard to say how tall it would be, but it still would have, yeah, a fairly large volcanic center. Yeah. So it wouldn't be nearly as big as the islands of Hawaii, but it would be similar to something more like Tahiti or Nuka Hiva and Marquesas or Pitcairn. Kind of a moderate-sized ocean island. And yeah, it would have been tropical. I have no idea what it would have looked like in the Cretaceous. What kind of flora and fauna you would have on an island like this, because they're not really preserved, but it'll be a bit different than today. You would have angiosperms. There were angiosperms back then. They would have just taken off.
Right.
You'd have birds. Birds would be outcompeting pterosaurs at this time. Which is crazy to think about, because pterosaurs sound so cool, but birds basically replace them in every niche.
You'd have a ton of marine life.
Yeah. Tons of marine life, almost no or very little stony coral. You'll have a lot of mollusks though. The reef systems will be quite different. Still same forams and similar microorganisms, marine snail coming down.
So back to the reef.
Chris, you want to center up here, please?
What kind of, you said
You would
bivalves?
have
Mollusks?
Rugos coral, I believe, is the dominant coral at that time. Let's see. For reef building. So actually what is building reefs varies depending on what epoch, era you're in. So in the Paleozoic, crinoids, stalk crinoids were the dominant reef builders. You find tons of those fossils. And then I believe rudist reefs, so the type of Rugos coral, which is actually a mollusk, I believe. Hold on, let me double check. I'm making sure I have this right in my head. Was the dominant reef builder in the Cretaceous. And then sclerotinians, which are the stony corals, will take over in the Cenozoic after the KT extinction event. Paleozoic, Mesozoic. Yeah, rudis, bivalves, they're going to be the most extensive reef developers in the Cretaceous.
So like a big oyster reef?
Yeah, I think that's kind of one way to look at it. They're kind of different shapes than you would have oysters. They look like cones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you pull up my computer right now, the chief side computer, you can kind of see what they look like.
Yeah, you know what? I'll come back to you on that. I don't have a hot button for it.
Yeah. But they're kind of these funky, large cone shapes, and the little tentacle arms come out of them. So very similar, niche filling as the sclerotinians, but just a different phylum.
Okay.
But you can find beds in the geologic record in some areas that are just entirely made up of these cone corals. It's just like a sea of them in the strat column. Find some of those in Vegas as well. Not in Vegas, in Nevada. That being said, deep sea fauna, we don't have, like this kind of stuff that you find on rocky records.
20200.
Rocky seamounts and stuff, the kind of corals we've been looking at, like the bamboo corals. There's no real good or real fossil record for those because it's just not an environment that preserves fossils. Typically everything here is going to probably be subducted at some point. And if what is pushed onto land is probably just going to be the rocky bits, and it's going to be all recrystallized.
There's work going on right now to basically use genetic clocks to determine the ages of some of the deep sea lineages.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing that you can do with genetics, is get a rough idea of how long ago, basically two different branches broke apart. Although there's some large time differences between genetics and fossil record, but
yeah, it's always good if you can calibrate your genetic time with fossils.